and we're having Deborah Stevens is joining us. She's a psychologist from uh, so Dr. How do you pronounce your name? Is it Wahba, Wahba or Wahba?
My name,
Yes,
yes, Wahba.
Wahba.
Yes, Wahba.
Okay,
It could be Wahba.
Wahba. Okay.
Yes,
And,
it's
and is that originally a Portuguese name or what?
no, it's not a Portuguese. No. My ascendant is from Europe, and I lived in Argentina. My husband is Egyptian.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that's the Wahba.
Ah,
And
that's the Wahba. Okay.
yes, and the Liviano is my first name. And I live in Brazil, and I completed my studies here. And then I was at the IIP, but I did my studies as an analyst in São Paulo, Brazil. We have a society, actually we have two societies of analytical psychology.
Mm-hmm. And are they both Jungian oriented?
Yes, we have a lot of psychoanalytical schools, Lacanian, Leibnizians, Freudians, and these two Jungian schools here in São Paulo, Rio, Bahia.
Wow. Okay. We were just learning on Sunday that there are even three Jungian institutes in India. And Ashok Bedi, whose essay also appears in volume 1 of this series, the Jung's Red Book for Our Time series, he said that he organized the institute in Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat, in the northwestern corner of India. So anyway, we're here, and Tim is here, and Tim is actually the founding idea of this group. So I wish Tim would introduce himself and what it is we're trying to do here. So that.
Well, welcome. I'm an artist. I live in Montana in Western US. And I've always been kind of, it's always saddened me that we in Western culture don't really have any rituals for dealing with loss. I mean, thank God we have a funeral. So at least when a person dies that is dear to us, we can go through a ritual to address our grief. But if you lose a job, or your marriage breaks up, or you have a medical catastrophe, if anything else happens to you that is hurtful to your heart, there is no ritual for it in our culture. And I find that really kind of bizarre that we have somehow developed a society where loss is something that you take care of on your own. You can go get drunk and just make sure you show up to work on Monday morning. Or if you've got a really good religious community, you can address it there. A lot of us have good friends that we trust and that uphold us throughout our lives, and that's really terrific. But that leaves out an awful lot of the population, and especially with something like the virus, which is a global issue, it brings all of us into one community. We are all in the same boat together, and we have to realize that our health is only as good as those around us. So we have to realize that the community is what all of us stand on, that we require responsiveness from the people around us. And this particularly American idea of rugged individualism, where I'm just going to take life by the throat, and if I have my success, then to hell with everybody else. We just simply cannot live like that anymore. So this group is an attempt to at least reach out to some people who are in the Jungian community and realize that the health of our depths is connected to the health of our outward world. So we're trying to invite people who are concerned not only for themselves, but for the surrounding community. And in this case, it means the whole damn world. We are all in this together. So we're really looking forward to your participation in this, and thank you for the great article that you wrote, Liliana. I think we're all looking forward to dealing with that, and that particularly how this impacts us in regards to our relationship with evil.
Right. And what I just like to add is that over the last 4 years, Thomas Arzt became a friend of mine and sort of a mentor of mine in the Jungian community. He had invited me to Aranos this year, which I was very much looking forward to, and then it didn't happen. And unfortunately, he died on Easter Sunday. I suspect he was one of the early deaths in Germany of coronavirus, although officially it was a heart attack. And so one of the purposes here has been to see if we can honor Thomas's memory by seeing what you may know or remember about Thomas, if anything. I don't know that you had any direct interaction with him, but let me ask you that first, and then we can talk about your article.
Well, if I understood your question as what kind of feeling and memory I have from that. I really never met him nor in person, and my contact is with Moray Stein, and they both together did this wonderful job on editing this book. And my content was only for the editing process, a few words. But, we feel that, for me, Jung said the image gives the situation of the world, but also the words. The word is an image. And the very few words that we exchange in the email were about look, editing and inviting and a little bit of the process and how he was editing the text. And I felt that he was such a gentle and concerned and careful person. And I also felt that he really was committed on what he was doing. It wasn't just, okay, it's a book. It's, I don't know, it's a process of transmitting something. It's spiritual together. And for me, the spiritual, that's why maybe I can talk a little bit today. It is not something really religious. It can be, it is, but not only. Spirit is our mind and our profound sense of being in the world together. That's why this kind of meeting that you proposed, to be together in the world, and when the world is suffering and we are suffering, and we have so many losses, and especially when the dear person dies before the time. There is not the time is the time. Yeah. But we know that this person has an energy to live more. And suddenly the person goes, and it's a wound. It's a very, very deep wound. And to be together, to honor what this person did, those who were close to him. You surely remember the talks, the laughing, the wine that you had together, and the projects. But there is a big project of living. And unfortunately, we are in a period of our history that we do not have big projects for living.
Mm.
We have big projects for doing, but not for living. So we need people who care about project of living. And that's what I felt that your dear friend and who edited this wonderful book, he transmitted to me a person concerned and living a project for life, for giving a sense of life, not only the productive life, that our Occidental world is so full of productive life. I There is also the split, liberal capitalism and socialism. Here in Brazil, we are completely divided since last elections. It's so stupid because we are divided in these political issues and we cannot go together as a nation to have really a social and let's say project uh, to help people in what it's important. It's not important to say if we are with the banks, with the capital, or with the Labour Party.
Yes.
This is,
Let's see. All right. So, Dr. Wahba, I'd like to first just introduce you. And so we're talking about, let's see, okay. We're talking about Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions. And Dr. Thomas Arzt was one of the two editors of this book. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this yet in terms of using my virtual background. And I did do an interview with Mary Stein and Thomas last July, which you can find on my YouTube channel on the homepage. And so what I'd like to do is read your background, which is in the book, and then we'd like to talk with you about your essay entitled Imagination for Evil. And I think that that's a very powerful article. I reread it again yesterday, and I'm very profoundly moved by it. But anyway, so Dr. Liliana Wahba is PhD, clinical psychologist and postdoctorate at the University of Sao Paulo Medical School. She is a psychologist, professor, doctor at the Universidade Católica de Sao Paulo Center of Jungian Studies, and is coordinator of the postgraduate program in clinical psychology. She's a Jungian analyst and former president of the Brazilian Society of Analytical Psychology. Her main focus of research is creativity, culture, and psychological development. She published the book Camille Claudel, Creation and Madness, I guess, and yes, has contributed with many articles and chapters to journals and books. She's also director of psychology of the OSCIP, Civil Society Organization for Public Interest. And she has a web page, which I will add to description of this video after it's posted. So, Dr. Wahba, would you, how do you refer to yourself? Are you Dr. Liliana, Dr. Wahba, or how do you
Liliana.
prefer? Liliana is okay. All right. All right. Well, let's do that then. But you have the floor. We'd love to hear, your initial thoughts, at least, about the essay, and then we'll talk with you about it.
Yeah, I think the essay, it's a grounded idea. And you mentioned that maybe people would be interested in presenting a little bit of Dr. Nisi da Silveira, who was,
Yes.
yes. How can I?
Well, we did, yeah, we talked, most of us are part of a advanced reading group. And because Mirtis is a member of our group, she introduced us to Nisa, The Heart of Madness, which is a movie, a Brazilian movie, I believe. But we all studied her work, and we talked about it in two-hour sessions about Nisa. But we'd love to hear your comments. And of course, Tim, as an artist, is quite interested in the museum that's there in Sao Paulo, I believe. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to repeat myself if you have already studied, but maybe the history, the biography of Nisi, I think you have already.
Well, it's not only for us, though, because this will be a video for public consumption now, and we don't consider our advanced group as public, so we keep that information private. So it would be great if not only for the people that are on YouTube, and there are 7 of them right now, but besides that, for everyone that might look at this playback of this video in the future, it would be great if you talk a bit about Nisa.
Yeah. Well, but let's start with the article from the book, The Imagination for Evil. That is a quote from Jung, as I put it in the book.
Right.
The idea was, and now in these pandemics times, I have been thinking on something like the illusions, projections. If we see how many projections people in difficult times, when our life is menaced, we have a regression of the basic unconscious, let's say. And all the mythological themes come to our mind, our complexes, everything is there, and it comes with a strength very, very, very strong, and it can be very destructive. And I see how people construct their own myths, collective myths also. And a lot of this, for me, it's still the illusion of some resolution, that I call we are in evil. Morris Stein said that we are living the umbra mundi, isn't it? Umbra mundi. We have the anima mundi. And now maybe we are living this umbra. Is the umbra of something external to us. Even it started in the markets, we don't know, but it's human living with animals. But anyway, it's something external to us. But this exteriority also touches our own interiority, our own evil feelings, and we cannot stand it. So a lot of illusions are coming, and this is the myth, and it comes to Nisi da Silveira, because, and also what I wrote in the article was the myth of innocence. Innocence is like this regression that Jung put it when we cannot adapt to life. We go back to our parents that will support us. The parents can be a leader, can be an idea, can be God. But we are like little child. We don't want to think and to feel about ourselves because there is fear of death, surely. And so I can see a lot of illusions. I can see a lot of good inspirations, yes. And it comes, you see, people changes, art and dances and everything. There is a lot of things that inspire us, of even lectures and films and meditation. But also there is a lot of supportive lifestyle, as we know how it's better to feel and to think and to do and everything. So we are little children. This is one of the ideas that I would like to share with you in what kind of mythic narratives we can see now. I do not know. We are in the middle of this. So we need to pass the time to see what happened. Now
So
we are.
what I'd like to emphasize about what you've said is that when we have a shock, a trauma, like the onset of the coronavirus or any other shock that may come to us, the shock of who was elected president in 2016 or whatever it may have been, we tend to fall back on a more primitive level of human existence. Right.
Yes.
Okay. And and we start to establish a narrative that we can work with, right? This is what you mean by the myth, right?
Yes, that we can work. This is a kind of narrative of control, surely. Anxiety, fear, losses, and we need to keep control. But this is the ego issue,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of ego issue. We need to reestablish a kind of control. But this is maybe the opportunity to go not to fall in the illusion of something that will rescue us. Is the rescuer, the savior. The savior is inside. We need to save ourselves with all the ambiguities and the fears, I think, and the unknowing sense, as Jung said, sense and nonsense, meaning and meaningless goes together.
Yes.
We are very used to Jung. Oh, meaning, meaning, meaning. You need meaning. Spiritual life gives meaning. But spiritual life gives doubt. And
Right.
innocence do not allow the doubt.
So if we're too innocent, we don't have doubt.
Yeah.
Right.
And evil. The example I gave in the chapter was one of the Melville's book, but also an episode who happened in Brazil. The lady who was helping, and she, social assistant, she was going by herself to help a man injured in the leg, and she was so innocent that this guy killed her, raped her, and killed her.
Mm.
She went alone there, This is a kind of, she was doing, let's say, a beneficial, a good act. She was moved by kindness, but with no reality limits. It can happen to anyone, not just, but this lady was going to the house of the guy alone by herself. How? And she was killed. And that's why I call this in name of the ideal. You don't have the sense of your reality, your limit. She was in, we cannot judge the lady what happened to her, but anyway, it looks like an innocence of the reality of the situation. So, but why? Why we close our feeling now in these pandemic times? Everybody say, take care of yourself, take care. Okay, we know in a certain way, here in Brazil, not totally, a lot of people goes in the street. A lot of people need to do it because they have to work, and, but with no protection. It's also like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't want to know. Unfortunately, population they don't have a reading culture, so maybe they do not know. Our president doesn't help very much, on the contrary. But also it's a kind of innocence. Yes. I have faith. What kind of faith do you have? You need science. You need to know what to, and it's not external, it's internal. I do not want to think by myself. And it's not only the non-literate people. This happens to very cultivated people also.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a interesting trouble. Let me ask if someone else wants to ask a question here.
Well, I would like to read just a little bit of her essay that might fit in here. Let me just see if I can get to it all right. You say, and if we are deeply disturbed by the injunction, assimilate the dark God who also wants to become man, we are somewhat relieved when Jung also asserts that evil is necessary, equivalent here to destruction, in order to dissolve and renew established formations. You will need evil to dissolve your formation and free yourself from the power of what has been.
That's very nice, very well. The quotation, maybe Myrtes can help me. It's from Nisi.
No, this is from your essay.
It's for my essay. You see?
What page, Nancy, were you looking at?
That's right. Let's see.
Nancy,
page 223 and 224. The bottom of 223 and the top of 224, I think. I'm reading it from a Kindle, so.
I have a Kindle too, so I don't have the page.
Okay. Where is this? Jung?
So hold on just a second. I think Nancy, if it's on page 223, you're not looking at Dr. Wahba's essay. You're looking at Dr. Pictet's essay.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Lilian is much relieved.
That's what I didn't recognize. But it sounds very well. Okay, where is this? But I can't sing with you. I can Where is that?
Okay, it's in page 223, she said. Okay.
223?
223.
223.
223.
Which paragraph?
Nancy, we can hear you.
Okay, what is it? Are we looking at what I read?
Yes.
And you're asking?
Yes, but tell me where
what-
can I put it? In which 223, which paragraph?
Well, on my Kindle.
Your Kindle, okay.
See, that's hard.
You are on the Kindle. Okay. But it's in scope, is 223, the page?
Well,
That's what my Kindle is saying.
okay, but that may not be the same page in the book.
Maybe not. Okay, so I keep attention. What is exactly the sentence that you refer? Let's see, repeat. See if you can.
You want me to say again?
Yes, Dr. Wahba simply didn't understand the sentence, and now she's offering to interpret the sentence, even though she may not have written it.
Well, if Myrtis can see where I'm reading, maybe she could just say it to Liliana in Portuguese.
Could you read it and make pauses so I translate each sentence?
Okay, yes. And if we are deeply disturbed,
e se nós estamos profundamente incomodados
by the injunction,
pela
assimilate the dark God,
assimilar o Deus obscuro ou
who also wants to become man,
que também quer se tornar homem.
Também, because the transmission
também, o Deus obscuro que também quer tornar-se homem.
Homem.
Humano.
Okay.
Homem, no caso.
We are somewhat relieved.
Nós ficamos de alguma forma aliviados.
When Jung also asserts
quando Jung também fala
that evil is necessary.
Que o mal é necessário.
Equivalent here to destruction.
Equivalente aqui à destruição, ao sentido de destruição.
In order to dissolve.
Para dissolver.
And renew established formations.
E renovar formações já estabelecidas.
You will need evil.
Nós precisaremos do mal. Nós precisamos do mal.
To dissolve your formation.
Para dissolver a nossa formação ou forma.
And free yourself.
E nos libertarmos
from the power of what has been.
Do poder do que tem sido, do que já sempre foi.
Yes, I understand, and maybe I think that Mrs. da Silveira work also as Jung was dealing with these opposites. And as Jung said, it's not privatio boni. We need to understand evil as a psychic reality. And yes, I agree that destruction is a necessity because we need to destruct old forms to create new ones. But I also see that sometimes this is a wishful thinking. psychoanalysis would say, oh, okay, it's a wishful thinking. But sometimes it may be, not necessary, but it may be, because also we need to understand the destruction as destruction, evil as evil, not an evil that will renew as a new quality, because we need to know that we have in ourselves the possibility of renewal, destruction, creation, inspiration, expiration of the Indian gods, inspiring, expiring, creating, destruction. But sometimes, a lot of time, we need to understand that destruction is just destruction. And how can we deal with this profound feeling, I am able to distract? And sometimes I can distract what I love most, what I love. And that gives a feeling of terrible guilt, terrible guilt, a real and profound existential guilt. When I realize that I have distracted what I most love, what was sacred for me. And this is our reality, our profound and existential and human reality. And what can we learn with this? Because I see in many Jungians and sometimes writing, now I was at doctorate thesis. I was there discussing the thesis, and the person, an analyst, very good analyst and everything, was showing in a process how how the person in the process of sampling was dealing with a skull, with that. And immediately the symbol of renewal came to the analyst. Now look, this person is opening a new path. And it was a big funeral. And who was dying was a child. Okay, there is the context. We don't have the context here. And well, can be. But you went too quickly to the renewal archetype, let's say. The analyst wasn't able to stay, to be there and to feel what is that for this person. We don't know if something will come. We don't know. And this also we have the feeling of losing someone. I know this because I have this experience with a brother that died very young. And really, we don't know what will happen to us if we face this. And how can we support this? What happened to us? And also, what are we able to do? I think that Jung, when he said imagination for evil, that sure, we have to understand our own umbra mundi, let's say, our own capacity for evil, also to have a moral conscience, to be responsible for what we do, what we can do, what we are able to, and to grow in a certain way as a conscience, as a moral conscience, ethical conscience. And if we just go to the renewal thing, the transformation, it happens after the war, terrible. Then there is a transformation. It's our let's say, we do not use the instinct anymore. because we don't know what is an instinct, but it's a survival instinct. We need to keep going. If not, humanity will die and finish. We need to keep going, but not so fast. Don't look for the renewal before feeling really profoundly what destruction is, what death is, inside and outside. And we are living this now, but now we have struggle. They say it's like a war. We need to struggle to survive. But what happens when a dear person dies? What happens to us? And what happens when we see that we are more narcissistic, that we want, that we killed the relationship, that we did something bad with a friend, with a colleague, that, I don't know, so many feelings. That
Well, what Ashok Bedi was pointing out was that we all have responsibility for coronavirus, for example, because we have allowed the earth to be polluted in a way, and we have allowed certain things to occur. For example, we allowed the decimation of our Centers for Disease Control, so that maybe we didn't do that directly, and we wouldn't have voted for it nor been in favor of it, but nonetheless, because of our lack of diligence to prevent that from happening, and each of us had, at least we have a vote we could do something with. It happened, and maybe we didn't talk enough to our children and our spouses or whatever to convince them that this or that should happen, or maybe we're careless with our waste or whatever it may be. So we all have some responsibility. I don't know, would that be fair enough? And
maybe, yes.
First of all, acknowledging our own
Yes.
our own responsibility for
Yes,
something.
but understanding that there is the contingency that are happening, that happens. That is John Lennon. Things happen to us while we are busy making plans. Remember?
Right. Very true.
That's happened. And there is some mutations, natural cataclysms and natural happenings that we are not so important, not where in universe maybe,
Right.
and not everything is up to us to prevent. But surely we leave a lot of decisions on our governments and so on, and we don't. Well, we cannot. The ego is very narrow its possibility, also.
Well,
Liliana,
go ahead.
as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the other things that we mentioned earlier. Dr. Neese, on one hand, who was able to go into an institution with crazy people and turn that darkness into something creative. And I'm also thinking about, I didn't realize you'd done a book on Camille Claudel, who is a really important figure for me. I'm a sculptor, and Rodin has always been kind of a hero of mine, but I've always been very disturbed by the darkness that came out in his life, and particularly as it relates to Camille Claudel. And for those of you who don't know, Camille was a young, beautiful woman that he used as his model. She was an art student, and she turns out to have been, as I think, as brilliant a sculptor as Rodin was. And of course, Rodin, even at the time, was world famous, and his models were pretty much abused by him, and none more than Camille Claudel. I think he not only used her beauty for his personal exploitation, but I think he must have also used her talent, because her talent came from somewhere. It wasn't from him. And later on in her life, she was institutionalized by her brother, who just was afraid, I think, of her power. And she spent the rest of her life in a mental institution. And a lot of her work she destroyed, I think, out of frustration. But to me, there's this ghost of the incredible beauty and medicine that is encapsulated in that story, in the story of both of these incredible sculptors who were on the edge of the darkness all the time. One of the reasons why I appreciate so much of both of their outputs is because they were able to talk about the darkness. Their work was not all about beauty and success. It was about struggle. It was about pain. It was about the sublime, which in English is a really hard word to translate, but the sublime is not only awe, but it's fear. It's fear in the sense that you look up into the night sky, the starry sky, and you feel that you are nothing in comparison. That kind of incredible awe that is part of the darkness. So I'm just wondering if you could enlighten us about that story of
Oh,
sculptors.
thank you, Tim. So you said it so beautifully. You express exactly the terror of the sublime terror, the terrible of the sublime. And this was, and Nisi da Silveira was able to, she used to say that she was looking for the abyss always, but only she could go through the edges of the abyss. And she had, the Nisi da Silveira, a profound respect of these shadows, of these profound shadows of human being, and trying to put it in the creativity. But it's not, that's why it's not a creativity of beauty and analog, let's do nice things and painting. It was the creativity of suffering. And in Camille, unfortunately, she had, a paranoia, depression, very depressed person. And she had strong complexes, a mother complex, very deep, profound mother complex. She was also a cultural complex, because she was a woman with a talent and intelligence that thought that was not matching the sister and what was expected of the woman at that time. And I think that with Rodin, they had an animus inspiration, mutual inspiration. She inspired him not only in her beauty, she was a beautiful young person, but also in her ideas. He discussed with her sculptures. She used to finish big sculptures of Rodin, she was doing always the marble, very fine hands and feet in the sculptures of Rodin, and she did her own sculptures. Rodin surely was narcissistic as a man, used to have a lot of lovers, but he always said that she was the real love of his life. But when I was studying and reading, uh, sure, as a woman, and Camille, such a wasted life at the end, my feelings for Rodin was not so good, you know. Well, but worse wasn't Rodin, it was Paul Claudel, because Paul Claudel was really with his religious conversion and the diplomat in France. He rejected completely he was going to the light, and in a certain way, egotistic way, he needed her to stay in the darkness, because all his own darkness was deposited in this sister. And he never tried to do something to relieve this profound suffering. Never. And this, I think, it's, well, I can in a certain way understand Rodin, but I cannot understand Paul Claudel. Maybe because I had a brother and we were so brother souls that I cannot understand. And Rodin and Paul and Camille were very also brother souls when they were young kids. And he abandoned her completely. So that's, I think it's a good example of not going in your evil, on your shadow, where really shadow. And he went to the light, diplomat, a big person, literature, and he couldn't accept, and all was projected in this lady, Camille, who had a lot of surely acting. She did a lot of actings, like sending to the Minister of Arzt a little bit, a letter with a sheet of cat, you know. You don't do this if you want to be in the public relations. She was not a persona. She was not able to have a good persona. And she went, unfortunately, to this life. Beautiful, beautiful, she had beautiful talent, even in a certain way, searching for inspiration with new materials from the East. And that's really a sad life, a sad story. And that's what Nisi da Silveira, she had this kind of sensibility, sensitiveness to look at each. There was a lot of these people in the hospital, the chronic patients, very chronic patients, they couldn't have a normal, let's say, what is a normal life. But in each one of them, she was looking for what kind of person, what do you have to say? What is your inner feeling here in this workshop that she did with the, let's say, the psychotic people? And really, they discovered there 3 of them, maybe 4, that were real artists, not all of them. It's not painting that makes you an artist, isn't it? It's not so easy. It's not enough to be crazy to be an artist.
Yes, that's true.
We'd like to. We'd like to, but no.
It makes me wonder about the necessity of having a partner in this kind of dialogue. That it seems to me that it's so hard for a person to approach their own shadow material that it's really helpful to have a partner who can help to stir up that mud, whether it's an analyst or just another person, like in the case of Camille and Rodin. They both were working in the same universe. They both spoke the same language, but because you've got a male and a female who, as you say, are in this kind of animus conflict, I wonder what the possibilities were of either of them being able to encounter their own shadow material without the other person.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a passion story, and maybe they projected it in each other, and they couldn't go to like the next the alterity to see each other as a person and to have this dialogue. They, in a certain way, during the work, they managed to do it, working together. But the emotions and all the feelings they had, it wasn't possible. So that's why we say in a marriage, in a couple, in whatever we are in life, in the relationship, when we are able to take off the projections and be in front of the other as a human relationship. The alterity is the term alterity, otherness. That was, I think that Jung was looking when he put the patient and the therapist in front of each other, not in the couch. Because when you are in front of the other, you can learn how you are with another. Surely we don't associate like the reverie. If you are in the coach, you don't see the face of the analyst. It's a technique, but you lose something. But you are training yourself and your patient to retard this projection. Idealize the father, superego, and you keep with each other this dialogue with the unconscious, with the other. I think it was that, for me, was the changing of sitting in front that you was proposed in the analysis. We can use the couch, I think, as Jungian. I use the couch sometimes, but I cannot stand behind. It's kind of, I stay. I cannot. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. But anyway, but to be with each other. And Nisi tried to do this with the patients because it was very important for her, the relation, to make a grounding in the psyche, the relationship with the therapist, with the occupational therapist, was very important for these people. So one of them was completely lost, talking about nonsense for us. This grammar, special grammar, words that you cannot understand. And he proposed, he put him to go to the workshop therapy. And he was just looking, and suddenly with the therapist, he started painting, and he painted a lot, and very, very profound and very mythical themes and painting. And this person was very peculiar because he was in a, let's say, in a fixation, social regression life. He managed to have a life going outside, going to processions, but living in the hospital. And he was Carlos Pertwee. He was going outside in the streets and going and coming, wandering in the streets. And then he stayed at the hospital, and he had a life. And who gave the opportunity to have a life? And one story, it's a very peculiar story. He kept talking in his special way, and he had animals. It's called therapist, a dog, and the dog died. He went to regression, but he found another dog. And one day he came to Nisi da Silveira, and he said in verse a very grammar syntax construction. I need some money. Why do you need the money? Because I have to buy a bandage and Mirtis, você lembra disso? Não, in the book. I have to buy some bandage and medicine because the dog is hurt. That's perfect. The reality, the necessity made him make a perfect sentence. And then he kept talking and writing in his own languages. That's so interesting. Though he was in the reality and he was not at the reality. Or in a certain time, Nisi took patients to paint in landscape is there in this beautiful scenario and in the nature because she wanted them to also all them made pictures and paintings of the fantasies they had, and to see a tree, look, this is a table, this is a tree, to give them the sense of what the world is. And this Carlos Pertwee was looking at the trees and he painting a tree, and in the sky he put navies, boats in the sky. And Nisi asked him, but Carlos, where do you see there? Where this one? And he answered, well, they're traveling in the sky. And she said, okay. So there are the tree and the sky. Isn't it wonderful? This is an unprejudiced person. She wanted them to have a sense of reality, but at the same time respecting their own feelings and fantasy, not being afraid of madness. I think that you have this feeling of not being afraid of your own madness, isn't it?
Oh, I think that's so critical that a lot of our fear is a reflection of what we can't accept in ourselves. And madness, of course, fills us with terror. And I think one of the reasons is because we are afraid of our own darkness. And if we have that capacity to embrace somebody else's darkness, that helps us to be able to look at our own. And that's, I think, what the partner relationship is so good for.
Yeah.
I find in my own work, working with models, I've gotten into this practice of using the model as a projection so that I can find my own projections in the model and be able to consciously encounter what it is that I see, and so that the personality really doesn't enter into this encounter. I'm just dealing with a projection. And to me, I find it really helpful to uncover what's going on inside me. I'm also going to have to leave for another Jungian group that meets in a few minutes. So I
Oh,
just want to thank you so much for your contribution, and I'm going to be eager to see the rest of the meeting on YouTube, which I'll get to see tomorrow maybe.
thank you so much, Tim, for dialogue. So writing, it's very rich. It will keep me thinking about, and well, I hope to have another chance to meet you.
Yes,
Yes.
I hope so. And I don't know, I haven't been following the chat, but I wonder if you could put the link for your book or even just the name of your book on the chat so we can look that up.
The book about Claudel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'll definitely put it on the description of this video.
Okay.
And we have a number of comments from YouTube, which I thought I'd come back to if you don't mind. Because one of the issues that troubles me when I look at Jungian thought, and I've been doing that for 33 years now, although not in a school setting, I've just been self-taught, is the continued reference to the word myth, because in the vernacular, in common language, in American English, if we say the word myth, we mean not here, not now, not me, not ever, maybe. That it's just a made up story. And I know that, and so when some politician says, oh, that's just a myth, what they mean is it's not true. It's a falsehood, right?
Yeah.
And so the use of the terminology by Jungians has always troubled me, because I think that we tend to shunt people off in the wrong direction when we use that term, and they think that we're talking about something that's not true, or they think it's not true in the sense that a fairy tale is not true, except to Jungians, fairy tales are true. Right. And so,
you know our actual president, what was the campaign of this person? He was the myth. He was called myth.
your current president?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
o mito, huh?
Yeah.
Myth. And he was so proud, always proud. He is the myth. He's the big man. And in the Facebook and everything, and they keep going, the myth is the myth.
Right.
But I don't know, it's a reflection you are doing. What is the myth and what is the myth in the proper? Maybe I don't know if you agree with this, but maybe it's a kind of distinction between allegoric and symbol. If we take the myth as allegory, it's any kind of, it's a myth of beauty, it's a myth of selling success. There are all myths, the media myth, but this becomes an allegorical thing. And Jung was very careful to distinguish. Do not put it as a realistic thing. The symbol is a symbol, So if we have the mythical thinking, the symbolic thing, we can have the Jungian and what we look at the myth as the unconscious. It's the narrative where unconscious and consciousness come together in the symbolic narrative, isn't it? Now, if we put the myth as something established, that is a fixed myth, I think Jungians can do this, especially with the archetypes. There's this archetype. Wow, look, the self.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the terminology. I'm not talking about what Jungians are driving at. I agree with you.
But I know, I understand. But I think even Jungians can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sandy, did you want to say something?
Oh, yes, I just had a question about working with children and sort of those symbolic myths that children experience. Are you versed on child analytic psychology?
No, let's say I used to work with child. Now I'm not anymore, but with adolescents. But I have students who work with child for child psychotherapy. So you have a question or?
Well, regarding the sand play therapy and the way that they sort of work on their kind of unconscious archetypal material.
Yes, especially you can see it very well in the sand play, isn't it? In sand play, you see,
yes,
you can see this. It's a scenario. It's always something of
like the sculpture that Tim was talking about, like the sculpture that he projects on. Like there's these different sculptures.
The sculptures, the games, all the play therapy, fantasy therapy, drawing, even dreams. Children, sometimes they have very rich material in dreams, even if they don't bring so many dreams, but in sculpture, in playing, and all this, because they are very, the ego is not yet completely, depends of the age. In 7 years, you have the conscious ego formation, and so they are very close to all these unconscious, the parents' unconscious also. In their sculpture, in their drawings, in their dreams, they bring very much of the family, very much of the relations, or what the suffering that they feel. One of my supervised therapists, she did a wonderful work with the suspect abused girl. And the drawings were amazing because all the suffering of this girl was in the drawings. And what was the myth? There was a myth of the woman, the mother, the child. So she brought something of a mythical fantasy, even of the father, of the monster. Who was the monster? And at the same time, she was talking about an experience, a very unconscious experience, and a mythical situation. Another mythical situation that children live very much is the hero myth. They live the hero. How they live they need the hero. So the boys, the girls, they have this fantasy because they need the strength to grow, especially when you have children suffering in this. So something in them, a capacity of growing, of creativity, of being resilient. You, it can be helped through the unconscious, to the mythical. That's the mythical symbolic way of helping, not the wishful thinking way, uh, like a projected myth. We can, this is very, very, and well, children do not speak so much. So you won't do a verbal therapy or tell me about your mother, your father, your project of future. We don't ask this to a child, but all it's in their creative expression, the suffering, the promises, the hopes, the ways to go through. And we can read the myth, yes, especially monster myths, fears, how they express fears when they see the monster, how we express our fears now in this time.
Yeah. Lewis makes an interesting comment here, which I think is appropriate to discuss in this context of evil. And it also relates to this paragraph, which I've marked with stars in your essay. So let me read it. He says, you locked, this is Jung talking in the Red Book. You locked Satan in the abyss for a millennium, and when the millennium had passed, you laughed at him, since he had become a children's fairy tale. But if the dreadful great one raises his head, the world winces. And you had this paragraph in your essay that I just like to read and then let you comment on these things. It's on page 201 of your essay. You say,
or in this book?
yeah, in that book. Yep.
That
Right.
201?
201. You said, like other thinkers of his era, including Freud, Jung was preoccupied with fanaticism and mental servility of large, undifferentiated groups dominated by uniform, unilateral premises. In extreme cases, this would lead to sociopathic leaders, as emphasized by Hannah Arendt in The Origins of Totalitarianism, regimes in which totalitarian tendencies is to make human beings superfluous and redundant and dispensable as individuals. Since the subject cannot be prevented from thinking, his thinking is made impotent and irrelevant, as if his individuality has dissolved and all men have become one man, and an undifferentiated mankind. By exerting this pressure on everyone and turning each one against the other, total terror destroys the space between them and becomes a condition of a perfect totalitarian government when radical evil emerges in connection with a system in which all men have become equally superfluous. And of course, this relates to Jung's famous quote of, if I have 100 admirable persons in a room, they become one blockhead. So I wonder if you would comment on that.
Yes, I don't know. That worries me so much. Hannah Arendt, and well, we don't know really what radical evil means. That's what's question to you. What do you want to say with radical evil? Or Hannah Arendt, what it, first she spoke about radical evil and then banality of evil. I feel that radical evil exists. I don't know how to say it philosophically, but we see radical evil. Abuse of children is radical evil. I don't need philosophy. For me, it's radical evil. I don't know. Some experience of radical evil. And maybe it was what you were saying before. So we are responsible in a certain way for what we do not want to see, or difficult to take a position. And that's very terrible, really. And we see this raising of totalitarian governments all over the world. They say that man doesn't learn with history. We repeat, but we know that complexes keep repeating themselves, isn't it? And that's very, very terrible.
Yeah, we don't seem to break ourselves out of the idea of being a mass person. Very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And that's what I was calling a little bit the illusion, to put on the hands of someone, of something, our hope to go out of the situation. It's very hard to be responsible.
Yes.
For yourself, for the other, it's very hard because we do not know. And we have to know not knowing, isn't it? And knowing things that choose to not know. And facing fear. Fear. Now we are facing fear, isn't it? Fear.
Yeah, for sure.
My question is why do groups follow the most psychotic of leaders?
Of the what our group, let's say,
follows
what
the most psychotic groups.
Why? Well, why? Because the psychotic leaders, they they know how to give the security, and we have the scenes present and future that Jung wrote about the mass person. Freud spoke of the love for the leader. We need to be loved by a leader or father or something like this. We need to be protected, and it's easier to follow because you don't have to think on yourself. Someone will give you the solution.
But it's interesting that the leader is the more of this. It has a valence of being psychotic, meaning their faculties are somewhat loose and more primitive and magical thinking and delusion based. So the group ends up entering a mass psychosis by looking for.
But look, it's a mass psychosis in a certain way. But the leader is not a psychotic, it's a psychopath.
Yes, no, he's just psychotic too, but maybe more.
Yes, and people goes in this undifferentiation, lowering of consciousness. That's 100 people in a room.
Yes, it lowers the IQ.
Sure, and
IQ drops. Yeah,
and these leaders, they do a great job of mass conduction. If you see the Nazi National Socialists, they have an apparatus, they have symbols, powerful symbols, but it was an icon because it was an original symbol used to conduct.
Propaganda.
They have wonderful propaganda.
I lived in Iran from 79 to 89, right when Khomeini went into power.
Yes.
So I was there for right after the revolution. They took down the, Shah, and they brought in Khomeini. And this was the most grandest psychotic by the low socioeconomic people that fell into it. And now I'm seeing something again, a return of these
terrible, but
two-headed.
Yeah, it's interesting. You put it as a collective psychosis because lowering of consciousness and the dissociation, or process of dissociation.
And too much identification with the leader, too much identification.
Yes, yes.
Is it not the case that a mass movement, while it may be evil, can also be positive? For example, in India, Mahatma Gandhi generated a mass movement that was peaceful and by all accounts beneficial to all of India. There's no evidence that I know of that Mahatma Gandhi was a psychotic.
Surely not. Surely not. But it's very difficult to differentiate what
But
is
he was very, I'm sorry, but he was very, very difficult man who beated his wife, abandoned his children, and never listened to anybody else like most of the time. And I wouldn't say he was like he was evil, but he was extremely like he consciously built the very, very strong personality, like which is very much power. It's not like not at all evil, but very, very big power.
Yeah,
And
he was
consciously built it. Like,
charismatic,
hmm,
right?
for sure. And so I'm not associating it with evil, but he was not at all a simple man. Not at all. A very proud, powerful creature. So
Yeah, Sandy
yeah,
brings up a book called The Uses, and she read Bruno Bettelheim's read Uses of Enchantment. I fell in love with imagination and evil. Banality can cause evil. And so, Dr. Wahba, I wonder if you could talk about the fact that many Jungian analysts have said that when you're in an analysis, the first thing you encounter is manifest evil. And I wonder, what your experience is with that, with respect to that, and what you do to deal with it.
Yes, and let's not forget the chaos and order kind of combination in regards to whether, it's not evil, but it's productive. It is evil, but it's productive, like that chaos order bit. If you could add something to that too.
Yeah, so difficult. How do I differentiate evil from chaos? Evil and chaos, isn't it? It's but well, I think that evil has a moral quality, because in nature you don't have evil. You can understand evil, and the first that you start in the analysis, as Jung said, with the shadow, isn't it? And shadow is what our conscience considers evil. What is evil in us is the shadow, and you need to go through the shadow to be able to see all your darkness. This is your darkness. Maybe the evil comes when you have the responsibility for the acts, not what you imagine, but what you are acting. And maybe, I don't know, really, but maybe if you have more imagination for evil and chaos, what chaos can bring, psychotic mother, for instance, you can have an analysis of psychotic person. But this psychotic mother is a mother of a child. So you can understand the chaos this person is living. This is a psychosis.
Yes.
At the same time, she's responsible for the child.
It's a psychotic attachment, yes.
Yeah, she has to take care of the child, give the child for a certain while to be cared by another one. So you are with this person. You are responsible also for the acts, even if you can understand or the psychotic process. And let's go out of the psychosis and go to the neurosis and talk about the shadow. Sure, you live the shadow with a person. I can understand, and a woman, a man with a jealousy, neurotic shadow. Yes, and we are going through to see what's happening, where it comes, what symbols are. But also this person is responsible for the acts they commit in the world. And now, how can you manage this in the analysis? I think you work in all the levels at the same time, isn't it? But yes, first you go through the shadow. I think that's why Jung wrote the book, and with some fantasy, terrible fantasies. They said, well, he was psychotic. Winnicott said he was psychotic, but a psychotic psychotic cannot leave the book in the table and go and have patience and work. This is not a psychotic.
Right.
But he went through his own psychotic and shadow process, maybe. Yes, I agree. And I remember one patient, he knew I was Jungian and a very strong transference. And he kept bringing me wonderful designs with Mirtes Bico di Pena, Nankin, with pencil, Nankin pencil, Chinese pencil, beautiful. And dreams, archetypal dreams, wonderful dreams. See. But he had a very psychotic symptom from a sexual complex. And he was hiding this, terrible. And he was hiding this, seducing the therapists with these wonderful images. But they were also real, symbolic. He was not lying. Both, let's say, dimensions of the unconscious were there together. But we had first to talk about the shadow and all the fears and the perverse fantasies he had, and he was hiding this. It wasn't terrible. He couldn't talk about it because it was evil. And we went through then the way open to all this symbolic and huge, even fantasies and wonderful, this, I don't know if this is a kind of, this is the answer in a certain way. There's no answer, but we cannot escape the shadow. That was Jung's.
Well, I started to look at the shadow a little differently after reading Françoise O'Kane's book entitled Sacred Chaos, in which she differentiated the logos and the eros and indicated that, you know, we live our lives in the eros, and that's not only negative things, it's not only evil, it's actually everything that we experience in physical life, right?
Yes, I agree. I agree, because that was a question about chaos. It's not only evil, it's chaos, and chaos is not evil. What I mentioned about evil, maybe no, I agree completely I would like to also to read this book. But what I meant, I wanted to stress that this is chaos and everything is in the shadow. And even Jung said the shadow is not only the repressed, the negative, it's all the possibilities that are in the darkness. We live in the darkness. Everything new is in the darkness. We don't know the dimension of the unconscious. We even don't know what is the unconscious. And we barely know what is the consciousness, what is consciousness. But what I was stressing is that we can understand this, but we are responsible for our acts. And what we do with our possibilities of living with another person. And
yeah, I've come to start thinking of these things a little differently, and that is that I think because I got into thinking about transformation and so on, and it occurs to me that when we're born, everything is chaotic. We're born into chaos, and we're wild animals. Okay, we're born as a wild animal, and gradually the logos is brought in to us so that we can see how, first mother teaches us how to do this, how to suckle the breast. Even the mother teaches that, and then you learn throughout life. You're learning and building a skeleton, which is basically a logos, but you still have to live your life outside of that. I sometimes quip, it's a quip, that everything that you can see in the room where you're sitting is the result of perfect logos, because you couldn't be looking at me on your screen if your computer wasn't built perfectly, right? So logos pulled all those rules together, and the manufacturers built all that stuff up, but it's all a skeleton. But the fact is, none of it is alive. Life comes from the Eros side. I wonder if you want to.
that's perfect. We have a frame, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, we have a skeleton that we live by.
Even what we're seeing is in our brains. We don't see reality. We see the image in our brain, and the riches of life it's around. Yes. And even we have to be responsible for these limitations and to know. That's why I think totalitarianism is terrible, because we are already framed and they want to frame more to keep people in the line, conducted, and life is chaos. I agree, and you learn with chaos. And I contradict myself in a certain way. Even when you do a bad, you talk about a friend, that also is part of the chaotic life. And you have the frame, and maybe you will go out of the frame and you learn something new.
Painfully, usually.
Painfully, yes. I agree. We are framed. That's true. And at the same time, we are bigger than the frame. But where is that?
Right. Well, this was why Dr. Jung was always referring to this verse in First John, the first letter of John, near the end of the New Testament, which is First John 4:1 is the verse, and it's the verse that says we have two streams. We have two streams of spirit coming at us all the time. And, you know, you have to examine the spirits and decide which is from God. And, you know, the implication being that the other one is evil or not appropriate for our lives.
But what is from God? But God has the suicide. God is not only privatio bonum.
Yes, yes, of course.
What is from God?
Yeah, that's right. God has a dark side.
The dark side of God. It's
Right,
that
right.
the umbra mundi of Moritz time, maybe. Huh? We are so used to anima mundi, and we have to think about the umbra mundi, umbra in our search. But it's not nature. Nature is natural.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, back when I started my process of doing a Jungian reading group, I think it was like the third session or something, and it was before our president was elected. And my comment about it was, people asked, why is he attractive to some people in the United States? And I said, well, he's breaking rules. And, you know, all of us were punished by the school principal or something. Our teacher slapped us on the wrist or whatever it was. We were all punished in some way. And here's a person who everybody expects him to be punished, and he keeps breaking rules and getting away with it. And so some part of us, some shadow part of us says, oh yeah, you know, I really want that because
yes.
it's sort of a revenge. It's a kind of revenge for being put down in our youth, maybe. At least that's my theory.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's exactly what is in the, sorry, that's exactly what is happening in India. The narrative which is spreading in India follows the theory which you are giving. So, like, yeah, Hindus were suppressed collectively by the in a recent history by particular people, and that is the narrative exactly fits the theme which you have just given.
Yeah. So I noticed that we have one new member. Idris, are you still there? He's just put it. Yes.
Yes,
so,
I'm still here.
Okay, so Idris is
very
here
much enjoying.
first.
I'm taking notes.
Idris is joining us for the first time from Vancouver, and I was wondering if you have any question, Idris, that you'd like to ask or comment.
Yes, I do. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this group. I'm enjoying a lot learning. It has not been my first day today. Like in past, I'm watching on YouTube. I just wanted to appreciate the hard work that you have done, and every member of the group. They're taking time of sharing their wonderful accumulated knowledge, whether through learning theory or in real life, which is equally valid and highly valuable, because they always have the option of not sharing it. Thank you for our scholarly author from Brazil. Brazil is very much loved by me. I have had some wonderful friends. I'm still in contact with them. Amazing human beings, celebrating life, celebrating happiness, having lots of nature, beautiful nature around them. And when they carry themselves to other countries, they bring that joy with them. They bring that beauty of nature with them. So I really applaud the spirit of Brazil. When I was a kid, I was watching this Minza Isaura, the slave girl. Very beautiful series dubbed into other languages. And it showed a story of a colonial time where there was a beautiful slave girl called Isaura. So I have a lot of emotion.
A escrava Isaura.
Yes.
yes.
I have so many emotions, and I just feel like I lived through those centuries and those emotions, that Rosa was there, the shadow troubling Isaura whenever she had a chance.
No.
So So I love all of you, and I love the people of Brazil very much. I wanted to say that I was born in Afghanistan. At age 3.5, we went to India, lived there for a few years, went back. So in total, I lived about 9.5 years in Afghanistan, 13 years in India. Next time we went to India I was 16. And then since 2004, we are in Canada. So I lived about close to a decade in Afghanistan, about 13 years in India, slightly more. And then to Canada. I did some school acting on the stage, which I enjoyed very much before my 12th grade. So in classes 10th, 11th, 12th. And I found the use of humor, play, art very helpful for society to encounter all the things that chaos or shadow or evil or even good can bring. It's almost like a release of emotion. And when they come home after watching a play or something, a lot of people actually have come out. It's almost when a child cries too much, and after that, a moment of peace starts, or joy, or even during morning when people cry, right after that, a peace descends, and then you see them smiling and interacting. So the brain cannot release same neuro chemicals for sadness for too long. And I found art and stage, humor, even like joking between friends, these what I would call it fake aggressions, as a very, very healthy release in a society where people could actually joke with each other very easily, friends or families. I found smoother relationship and deeper lasting love between them compared to a very strict, coded and with lots of norms of do's and do nots. That becomes a little bit rigid. So I would like your idea about that. And one more thing I would say is that I really appreciate all mothers. I really love anyone who has given birth and they raise. I love my own mother very much. And I noticed that mothers are great narratives of fairy tales. Like before going to bed of any child, they tell stories. They bear cultures, they bear the ethos, the pathos, and occasionally also logos of the society. And they choose not only the father of the child in most instances, hopefully 100% instances, but occasionally not. But they also choose all these stories that a child actually listens in the childhood. And when they grow up, I noticed, because I lived in different places, I traveled over about 27 cities in India, and also like in Canada, I traveled much. I went to a few other places. But I noticed that this storytelling as a vehicle of culture, mothers play a great role, and I would like your thoughts about it. So first was role of acting, arts, play, and humor, even between persons, interpersonal, and also role of mothers as storytellers and for forming culture. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, but
There's a lot there.
I want to share with you. It's not a question, it was a comment. There is a question? No, no, just a,
Yes, there are two questions.
okay.
One
Well,
about do you prefer Portuguese or English? Okay,
I do it in English. Okay. What was the question?
Yes, one concerning the role of arts and acting and humor, and even if it is in stage or between friends. What do you think about that? Like he said, a form of aggression, but let me see if I can say correctly what he said. A way to bring out evil through humor and acting.
Humor, yes, and art and humor, and even what they say, it's, and now it's goes in every country, I think. You know, Brazilian people is very, they love everything. It's a joke here. You know, we make fun of everything, and we make fun of what we fear. And sometimes there are, you see, if you notice, we do not make any fun humor. Humor is necessary. It's not only the failing act. It's not only a symptom of something. Humor is necessary because it's a kind of keeping alive and say, well, we are sharing, we are here, we can laugh, and art and humor is necessary to keep us moving and going on. Even it's necessary to acknowledge that we fear that life is threatening, but we need this. We need, as we need to eat something sweet or to share wine. You don't have to have wine if you don't drink, but it's need dancing, laughing. That's necessary. If you do not laugh in life, you really are in a bad condition. It's at the depression, the extreme depression. You do not have the capacity of laughing. So humor it's like, this is necessary. But you see, nobody in all the world, we do not make humor with doctors and nurses who are in the front. We can do humor with everything, yes, with the situation, but we only honor these people with music and prayers and pictures, because there is something that maybe at this time is so sacred. So we have a profound respect for these people who are in the front. And we can maybe do the humor to support them, because we recognize what the sacrifice they are doing for the people. So there is in humor, even in humor, and here in Brazil, you make humor with everything, with your mother, with your father, with your kid, everything. But we do not, you see, I think there is a kind of respect in this situation because it's such a dangerous situation and people is exposed, they are exposed. But I think, yeah, sure, that's the stories, keeping stories and humorous stories. And we do not make humor with abuse, for instance. But we do humor with women and men and everything. But we do not make humor with abuse. So maybe there is a certain, that's the, where evil is, danger is. We have these limits of respect. But we need the humor and art. I think art and music and all this is a kind of keeping you in touch with spirit, with life, with sharing together and being ever. And I love Vancouver. I hope to go again, but I feel very close to people there.
I just wanted to add something here. So yesterday, when we had our call, we were discussing about something came up, and we were discussing about how music, uh, they have a myth about like somebody sold their soul to devil and then they got immediate musical, like immediate talent, and this kind of a stories like exist throughout, like not in only in music, but in different kind of art forms. Like there are a few dancers in India who um like who were kind of say that they were possessed by demons and they got like talent immediately.
Mm.
So so that, do you think that's the shadow side of it? Because music, it like music has a transcendence element to it, right? Like it calms us down. At the same
Yes.
time, there are where it is like heavy metal. Like if you go and see heavy metal um, performance, it's like for 4 or 5 days you will be in trouble. Like you will have issues. It's that loud, like almost damaging,
I,
borderline.
Mm. I don't know if the question is this, but wondering, thinking about on music and rhythm, because our heart is bumping so strongly and so fearfully and so anxiously with everything that's happening and with losses and fear of losing someone. So the rhythm and the music is like, is as we can uh, go inside with another rhythm, is as our heart can beat can be faster or slower, but not in this acceleration of anxiety, panic, stress, in the middle of stress, thinking of post-traumatic stress. Now we are in the middle, we are not in the post-traumatic, we are in the stress. And this kind of music, the music, the dancing, it's a way of putting our body in another rhythm. That is not the rhythm of trauma. It's our inner, our, as, look, where is your heart? How do you, where is your chest? Where is your mind? How do you feel yourself in this rhythm, natural rhythm? Because we are in the non-natural rhythm of panic, fear, uh, isolated.
What I that's very true, and it has like super healing capacity as well. At the same time, I will there is a other side of it. For an example, in I think Sandy will be able to tell us, like correct me here. So in Islam, like those art and dancing and those things are kind of forbidden, not like fully, but kind of. And even act like mainstream actors, they are tabooed because they are in mainstream acting by the Islamic communities. And um, another side of it, so there are a lot of mythological stories behind this, where the same element which we are talking about said that it like it is a it can bring forces of evil in you, so you stay away from those. So I just wanted to, like, if you have thoughts on it.
I did not answer the question very well. Mirtis, let's. I don't know if I understood properly. Mirtis, what is the exactly the question in the acting in?
I don't know if I got it correctly too. Let me see if I understood, Kushbu. You're talking about musical expression, dance can
Yeah.
also bring up the evil, uh, the evil.
Well, or
That?
that,
Yeah.
yeah, or that some cultures um,
Ah,
take the view that if you do these things, it's going to constellate an evil side to you.
but well, but this is, she meant in some cultures you are afraid that it can bring the evil side as a frenetic or in a ritual or psychosis, satanic psychosis. But this is not music. This is not rhythm that brings. On the contrary, and if you are screaming or doing, it's a necessity or a body or a feeling. You can use everything. That's not only the chaos, but the evil. You can use art, you can use music to kill people, you can you can use science to kill people.
Yeah.
But the problem is not the music, it's not the art, it's not the body. The small body is not evil. This is maybe a symptom. You have to be in your mind. It's a Christian kind of dissociation. The body is evil. So if you express the body, when you are going in Israel and you dance naked in the snow, this is a terrible thing. It's wonderful because it's your body there. You
And also
express it.
another question which was around the evil, the mother can kill someone to protect the baby, right? Where will you like where is the ethical stand over there in evil moral stand over there?
So this is relativity of evil, I think, Dr. Wahba, where conflict of duties is Jung's term, conflict of duties. A mother kills someone to protect her baby. Where is the dividing line between good and evil?
That's the question. Terrible question. We kept like, where is the divided line? Exactly.
It's relative. It depends on the situation and the terrain, I
Yes,
think.
you can say, well, it's not an egoistic question. You are protecting someone, it's not evil. But if I expose a lot of people, I am protecting my ideals and this is not evil. Maybe it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
If the mother kills someone to protect the baby.
Yeah. So
So
we've gone for 2 hours here, and I think
Yeah.
we don't want to impose upon you, Dr. Wahba, but there's a couple of people that haven't had a chance here, and so I'd just like to ask them whether they have anything to say. And specifically, Miles, do you have any question or thought you want to get in?
Oh, thank you. Yes, there's a comment that someone made on the YouTube chat, and the person says that he doesn't or she doesn't believe that they need myths. They can have a life with a great deal of meaning without mythical beliefs. And related to what Skip said, that in the typical definition that we have come to know, myth is something not real, not true, not now, not me. What came to mind is that we are all given a slice of what is referred to as the pleroma, a unique slice. And now that I'm 60 years old, that slice has got a lot of information people have given me, and especially since I encountered Skip and Carl Jung, I'm now, okay, why did I have this spiritual dissonance and cognitive dissonance? And so I'd just like to say to the person that myth is really a story and a communication, and our lives, especially as you get older, it becomes numinous, so I now sort of have adopted a saying that it's my life, it's numinous, and I will cry if I have to. And so ultimately, I think what we can do is just see our life as a myth, and people such as people here have shared some of their life, and we've all benefited from it. And I think the evil in me is to really get moving. It's almost evil for me to be here, because as I enjoy all this, it's like, okay, well, you're not doing anything for yourself and your own, work that you need to do. So anyway, those are some thoughts that I just wanted to share, and I really appreciate your article, your essay on the imagination for evil very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. And remember, to answer the people who do not live on myths, we have to remember Yuval Harari wrote, the great revolution movement of humanity was when they started to talk about narratives and to communicate. And myth is a narrative.
Yeah.
If we think on myth as narrative, that make us humans.
Yeah. And what I would say in response to the YouTube chat is, you may think you can live without myth, and you don't live in a myth, but actually you do. And these are archetypal, and you can't escape from it just by saying that you don't live in a myth. You certainly live in a myth. The only question.
Non-mythical narratives. It's another narrative.
Yeah, that's a myth in its own right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so you can't live with that. You don't live outside a myth, because the archetypes are always there with you, no matter what you call them.
And I think that somehow you ended up answering the second question Edris asked, that was about the mother and the storytelling, the importance of this role of the mother as a storyteller for the children.
Absolutely.
So there is the importance of the narrative, and I think is it connected to this?
Yeah.
That you just talked about now.
Yeah. Storytelling. Yes. Keeping stories.
Well, it definitely was in my life. I can tell you that my mother was a terrific storyteller. Yeah. Debbie, did you want to say something before we wrap up here?
No, well, I was to thank you again to be with me. Very important to share with you and some ideas, and you stimulated my own ideas. And well, thank you. And I hope to have another opportunity. Prisons on prison, personally, maybe on person. Although our dollar now it's going high and high.
Right.
We have the economic problem also.
Well, what I have been doing is including the people who have been featured in our mailing list, so that you know when we're going to have another session.
Okay.
And it strikes me that maybe the authors that are in this book don't talk with one another enough, and they might want to also participate and maybe interact with one another in that way. Well, on Sunday we're going to have Diane Pictet, or Pictet, I'm not sure how she pronounces her name, but she's in one of these chapters of the Red Book for Our Time, and she lives in Zurich, so you may have bumped into her at some point or other. Idris, I'm sorry we didn't get back to you again for a further question, but I hope it's been useful for you.
I think with the the depth and breadth that she covered, a lot of it has been answered, and I'm also hopeful that I will get a lot of responses in future sessions about the same topics. It's about a human destiny and human condition on Earth, what we go through. So they're all connected, even if something seems apparently disconnected, like we went to other topics, but they're all connected to our own human life. But thank you for offering them.
Right. Okay, so thank you very much, Liliana. We really appreciate it. And we have one tradition at the end of our sessions that maybe you also can appreciate, which is we ask Khushbu to close our session with a Hindu mantra. And so Khushbu, would you do the honors here?
Yeah. You recite the first one and then I'll take over.
I'm embarrassed to do it again. Okay, I'll do the first mantra. Om Om Loka Samasa Sukhino Bhavantu.
Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So that is a
God
prayer.
bless you.
That's a prayer for the happiness of the whole world and happiness of all the worlds, quote unquote.
Thank you, Khushbu. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, Khushbu. Okay, so thank you, Liliana, and I will send you a link for the book, Sacred Chaos. I think you would like that. Yeah. Okay, peace, everyone. Saturday night, we're meeting with Nicole at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and Sunday at Sunday at 11 a.m., so 2 hours earlier, we will be meeting with Darian Pictet from Switzerland. And I'll send you that information, Liliana, so that if you want to join, you're certainly welcome, for sure. Peace.
Thank you, Queen.
Obrigada, doutora.
Yeah.